Now let me start by saying that, having spent my entire life living in New Mexico, a lot of people I know have claimed to have seen a Skinwalker. They are kind of our regional boogeyman. But ask a Navajo about them and they will either absolutely ignore the question and all following, or they will kind of laugh it off, saying something to the effect of, well, white people believe they are myths. Well, here's my story regarding them. My father owns a small delivery service that operates out of Farmington, New Mexico. We mostly deliver small packages out to the middle of nowhere that are too much of a hassle for the larger delivery companies to bother with. My dad is the only employee and we have a few pickup trucks and a trailer. One day we get a delivery out to Window Rock, Arizona, on the Navajo reservation about 2 hours from Farmington. My dad gets the call for the job while he is chilling with his Navajo friend, Travis, and his girlfriend. Travis mentions how he's got family in Window Rock that he hasn't seen in ages and suggests they go with him. I was about 6 or 7 at the time and it was the summertime, so Dad decides we'll go down together. He can do his delivery really quick. Then while Travis sees his family, we can go check out the Window Rock, big rock face with a large hole in it that goes to the other side. Pretty cool. We had to convoy in separate trucks since my dad's was loaded down with freight. We decided to bring along some talkie-talkies so we could communicate with one another. We spend our time in Window Rock, everything is generally uneventful, and we start heading home along the old highway with my dad and I in front, and Travis and his girlfriend in their truck behind us. I honestly don't remember most of the Window Rock trip, but this next part I can never forget. We're somewhere on the highway between Window Rock and Gallup, New Mexico. It had just rained earlier in the day and the road was kind of slick, so we were taking it pretty slow. Pick related. On the left of the highway there is nothing but sandstone cliffs, and on the right there is a huge field separated from the road by a small barbed wire fence. We crest the top of this hill, and down at the bottom of the hill we see what appears to be a very large dog, sitting back on its haunches in the middle of the road, facing the cliffs. My dad calls over the radio, "Hey Trav, do you see that big-ass dog?" Travis starts yelling back over the radio, "That is not a dog. Speed up right now and hit it." He sounds almost hysterical. He just keeps screaming, "Hit it. JJ, you have to hit it. Please, please. Hit that fucking thing right now." So my dad starts to speed up, and as we get a bit closer I can begin to see it a little more clearly. It's covered in this brown, wiry, matted hair that appears to have dried blood all over it. It's still facing the cliffs, but the moment our headlights hit it, it turns and looks at us, and it has a face. I don't know how else to describe it other than a mix between a bear's and a human's face. It looks twisted and distorted and almost in pain. As we get closer to this thing we start to realize it's actually freaking huge. Though it was still sitting on its haunches, it is about shoulder height with the hood of the truck. We get literally inches from hitting it when it lets out this scream that sounds like someone screaming as their lungs were filling with water, and it leaps backwards towards the field, landing just on our side of the barbed wire fence. Then with another leap it was gone from sight. Travis comes over the radio again, "Holy crap, keep driving. We have to get out of here. We have to go faster." He kept repeating that last part. We have to get out of here and we have to go faster. Pretty soon we are speeding like crazy, and just as we start to come near the outskirts of Gallup we get pulled over. Travis pulls his truck over with us. Naturally this makes the cop, a Navajo man himself, very on edge, and he immediately asks why Travis felt the need to pull over as well. Travis says we just saw a Skinwalker a few miles back and it's been following us. The officer immediately turns white, stammers something about a verbal warning, gets in his car and takes off. We do the same. We didn't see anything else that night, but when we got home Travis refused to let us leave without taking some kind of Navajo totem thing that was supposed to keep it away. So yeah, I guess that's my Skinwalker story. Sorry for the length, but thank you for reading. Be me. 18, right after high school. Decide to take a cross-country trip before I start uni. Good times. Mostly camp. Need work every now and then. End up broke in New Mexico looking for work. Find work replacing roofs on Navajo reservation. Gov project. The rest of the crew stays in a school overnight. I decide to camp out in the desert. First night, wake up to sounds of someone walking around my tent. Freaks me right the fuck out. Wake in the morning and find a pot I used to cook with missing. Find a yellow flower in its place. Next night footsteps again. Another flower but nothing missing. Third night footsteps. I decide to investigate. Get out of the tent and hear the footsteps scurry off. This is getting fucking weird. Start yelling into the desert. What do you want? Next night I decide to sleep in my truck so I can look at my campsite during the night. Stay up all night. Around 3 a.m. I see her. A native girl about my age. She looks around my site and puts a flower on my cooking table. Get out of the truck, she runs off. Next night, she shows up again, but I left a flower for her. She picks it up and sits down by my campfire. I come out from the shadows and she starts to get up, but I calm her. I sit across from her. We were miles away from anything deep in the desert. I start asking questions. Are you out here alone? What are you doing out here? No answer. She stands up and gives me the follow me hand gesture. I do. I follow her. We walk for about a mile. I was camped at the bottom of a mesa. The breeze blowing down it at night was comfy. We wound our way through the corridors of mesas and down into a canyon. In the canyon there was water and vegetation and shit. She knelt down beside the stream and picked a flower and handed it to me. She said in broken English, "Hold this, it will keep you safe." Then she kissed me. Safe from fucking what? She let go of my hand and walked towards the canyon wall. And then she was gone. Fucking gone. 1 second there, the next second not. I had an urge to follow where she went to see what happened to her. But another urge that told me not to, just turn around. I got lost out there that night. I tried to go back the way we came, but nothing looked familiar. I walked all night and half of the next day. Just before dusk I ran into 4 Navajo men who were looking for me. They told me I hadn't shown up for work for that day and everyone on my crew just thought I had moved on. Until one of the people at the house we were working on overheard him saying that I had told him about my nightly visitor and the flowers. The Navajo whose house we were working on was an elder and ordered a search party immediately. They told me she was a descendant of the people who lived there before them. That they had left this world 1000s of years ago and moved into another. That very rarely a portal opens up where people can cross over. Legend goes that they send young pretty girls to lure men into crossing over to be used as slaves. Their telltale is a flower. If I would have followed her I would have crossed over, and who knows when or if the portal would have opened up or if I would have even be able to find it. They said that if I didn't go on my own the girl slipped me drugs in the kiss to make me confused and lost, and that night if they hadn't had found me the other side was going to take me by force. They called her a poison woman.
Alright, listen up motherfucks. I'm going to tell you all about what happened last weekend and the only time me, a 6 feet 5 inches 245 pounds of Marine Corps muscle grown ass man laid down in bed and sobbed like a little baby in my adult life. I'm not talking Fleshgate, I'm not talking Goatman, I'm talking about true honest to the sweet baby Jesus Navajo Yee Naaldlooshii. I live in a rural part of basically the middle of Utah in a tiny town called Columbia. Our nearest major city is called Price, which is over 45 minutes away and only has 7,000 residents. Columbia is located near a place called East Carbon. East Carbon and Columbia is a very old place with a rich and disturbing history. It was a major mining settlement from the late 1800s through until the 1960s, when industry started moving out of the area to other sections of Carbon County. The coal mines that fed this part of the country were becoming more corporate and no longer agreed with the hiring of society's dredges that lived in East Carbon, then known as Dredgerton and Sunnyside. With the loss of industry and the lack of close jobs, basically all the decent people moved out, leaving only those too old to want to leave and the god-awful people and their worst children behind. This brought about the usual drug issues and theft, but the one thing it brought up as well was a large population of Satanism and dark magic worship for some reason. I don't know if it was because the place had nothing else going on and was just so damn old or what, but that continues to this day. So, you combine a mostly abandoned ghost town with very old buildings and Satanism, I'm not a stranger to creepy shit. As a teenager, me and friend would always explore the darker areas of the town's past, tunnel systems used at one time to transport alcohol and illegal prostitution, houses the Mormon Mafia used to torture, beat, and kill people, etc., and never once got spooked. Hell, we were even notorious for running the Satanists off by taking pot shots at them with deer rifles and setting off homemade paper bombs. I wasn't scared of shit. And I kept that attitude into the military, which only enhanced my feelings of being 10 feet tall and bulletproof. Well, just across the highway from my old stomping grounds lays a place called the San Rafael Swell. Now, East Carbon is old. East Carbon is very old, in fact. But the San Rafael is even older. The San Rafael shows many signs of what I know to call a liminal space and has been for literally thousands of years. There is remnants of everything from the honest-to-God cowboys of the American West, bank robbers, to the Spaniards who came through, and possibly hid their treasure, all the way back to 2,000-year-old Indians who used the place as not only somewhere to live, but many areas were ritual spots and spiritual places. Anyone you talk to from the area will tell you there are places out there you do not want to go, and damn near everyone has at least one story they do not want to tell. It is an old place. Well, being me, I don't give no shits and romped around there for all of my teenage years and never found anything that got me even remotely scared, other than once running into what I believe was a drug cartel trade-off. Fast forward until now. I just got out of the Corps, and returned home not 8 months ago. Since I have been catching up with old friends and been doing lots of the things from my old high school days I was missing in the service, except now with much more alcohol. Last Saturday I went to Wellington, about 30 minutes away, to prepare for a coyote hunt I had planned with my best friend. We planned on being gone until Wednesday, camping and shooting the shit with one other friend of his who was letting us use his side-by-side for the hunt. We got out to the San Rafael, a solid hour-long drive, and set up camp, a nice little hole in the wall at the base of Cedar Mountain. We cruised for a solid few hours until just before dark and didn't see a goddamn thing. I smoked a rabbit with my 4082, more on that later, but that is it. We returned to camp, and were passing the bottle of Buffalo Trace and slamming beers while telling rodeo stories and such when nothing felt right. It wasn't like the horror movie cliche of we heard something move and were overcome by fear. The only way I can describe it is if any of you have ever tripped on Benadryl/diphenhydramine. It is a terrifying high that overcomes you with a sense of dread, increases your heart rate, and makes you feel lethargic. It was like it went in a circle around the campfire. First I stopped talking and the paranoid dread took over me, then my friend, we will call C, and his friend, we will call H. Now I was the guy known to flop his dick out and start laughing when we got in a firefight, so this wasn't something I have felt before from a real danger threat. Like I said, the only thing I can liken it to is a Benadryl trip without the hallucinations. I was just thinking it was maybe the whiskey hitting me wrong, so I told the guys I was just gonna call it a night, gave them a laugh, and climbed up on my rock to call it a night. We were sleeping under the stars, no tents because it was such a clear, beautiful desert night. I rolled over and went to sleep almost immediately, at only about 10 o'clock at night. Next thing I know, C is giving me a poke. I roll over and shoot him a dirty look. "What do you want, chicken fucker?" He flashes me a quick smile and says in a low hushed voice, "Hey man, we're getting out of here. We're gonna go camp on the top of the mountain rather than the base. I just don't like it down here." "Why the fuck would you wanna do that?" I ask. He replies, "What if it floods or something? We're right at the base. I already got your stuff in and the razor on the trailer. Let's go." I shake my head, no point in arguing, and start packing the little bit of bedding I had on the stone slab and heading towards the Suburban. About the time I load in, we hear 3 short yips of a coyote. Earlier incident all but forgotten in my mind, I get excited and say, "No, let's wait, that one's close." Hand me my rifle. C and H exchange a quick, nervous glance and H says, "Nah man, I'm pretty tired, let's hurry and set up a new camp and we'll hit it in the morning." If it would have been C, I would have protested, but I didn't know H very well and decided to go along with it, but my rifle was going in my lap regardless. We start leaving, but going the wrong way to go on top of Cedar Mountain. I ask what the fuck is going on, and C turns to me and says, we're getting out of Dodge. My uncle has his nice trailer set up down here and it's just of the highway. I wanna be in something more secure than nature. Pussy. Hey man, I don't know, I think I saw some shit. What was it? I don't know. That's my problem. Pussy. C became a fish cop when I left for the military, so this dude knows what he's talking about when it comes to wildlife. I'm not gonna bash him too hard. If he couldn't ID it, then I sure couldn't. We get about halfway to his uncle's camp spot, coming across a large sagebrush flat, when I see a goddamn huge coyote up ahead off the road edge. I holler stop, and C says, yeah, probably not. This pissed me off. I reached over and slipped the bourbon into neutral, and he stomps on the brakes and goes, fucking really? You don't want any part of this shit tonight? I step out of the bourbon and lay the old buckhorn sights on the coyote, when it turns to face me while getting up on its hind two legs. The dread comes back, with nausea and a vengeance this time. I'm not gonna lie to you /x/ I shit myself. I shit myself right there. Not figuratively, I shit my pants. The dread that hit me was so deep in the pit of my stomach that I couldn't control my bodily function. I shit myself, and my eyes started tearing up. It was the feeling of finding out your best friend died of cancer. Times about a million. I squeezed off a shot, and my senses were all blank but my sight. I didn't hear the roar of the old black powder Winchester in my hands, I didn't smell the acrid smoke, I didn't feel the hefty push against my shoulder. The only input into my brain was the slow motion smoke clearing, and a small man with a coyote skin draped over his shoulders in the middle of turning to run when the shot struck him. The shot was solid, dead in the side of the rib cage, that much I knew from calling shots before. But as he finished his spin he kept running, not making an unholy screech, but singing. He ran across the desert floor with unholy speed and started to glow or burn. I'm not sure which, until he disappeared completely, song fading with his light. There are old things out there, /x/. Very, very, old things. I went home, cleaned myself up, and cried myself to sleep. C and H didn't so much as say a word when taking me back, but later confirmed they both saw it as well. The only thing I can figure is my rifle, which is a Winchester 1886 made sometime in the 1890s, had something to do with what happened. I've heard you can't kill a Skinwalker before, but this rifle was handed down from my great-great-grandmother, who was an Atsana medicine woman. The next morning I found what I believe to be the remnants of a broken arrowhead sitting on my dining room table, and that has been the end of it. Will post pics when I return home. Hope that's good enough. Lots of personal shit on the DD, don't want 4chan to find me. Arrowhead remnants, the way I think they would have gone together. Backside.